In this video, we are discussing the x and y intercepts of a line. The y-intercept is the point where a line crosses the y-axis. So on this graph here, this is the y-intercept. The y-intercept can be stated as just a value or as a coordinate. When it's written as a coordinate, remember if it's on the y-axis, well then the x value is 0. And the y value is where it crosses the y-axis. So in this example here, the y-intercept is 3, or we can write it as a coordinate, then the coordinate is 0, 3. The x-intercept is basically the same thing, except it's where the line crosses the x-axis. So this is the x-intercept on this graph. So it's crossing the x-axis at 2, so the x-intercept is 2. And if we write it as a coordinate, well, since it's on the x-axis, the y value is 0, and the x value, well, would be 2. Let's look at two other examples. So I'd like you to pause the video here, and for each graph, I'd like you to try to find the y-intercept and the x-intercept, and I'd like you to write the answers as coordinates. So pause the video, please. So in the first example, the y-intercept would be here. Now, since it's not right on a corner, we have to estimate what its value would be, since we don't have an equation of the line either. If we'd had an equation of the line, we could use algebra to find the y-intercept. But since we don't, we have to estimate, so our y-intercept is about at 1.5, and as a coordinate, that would be at 0, 1.5. The x-intercept is here, so that gives us an x-intercept of -2, and the coordinate for that is -2, 0. In this example, the x-intercept is here, so the y-intercept is there, and that gives us a y-intercept of -3, so our coordinate is 0, -3. For the x-intercept, well, this line is never going to cross the x-axis because it's a horizontal line, so there is no x-intercept. So that was how to find the intercepts when you're given a graph. If you're not given a graph, if you're only given an equation, you can find the x and y intercepts using substitution and using algebra. So when it's the y-intercept you want to find, you have to substitute into the equation x equals 0, and we will solve for y, because that is the x-coordinate for the y-intercept. For the x-intercept, we substitute in the y equals 0, and we solve for x. So let's try with this first example. So here we have y equals 1/4x minus 3. To find the y-intercept, we'll start with that. Well, you might say you can already tell what the y-intercept is because this equation is in y equals ax plus b, and we would know that the y-intercept should be -3. But let's just check using our new rule to see how it works. So this is my equation, y equals 1/4x minus 3. I'm going to replace the x value with 0. So now it becomes y equals 1/4 times 0 minus 3, and we'll solve for y. Well, 1/4 times 0 is 0. So now we have 0 minus 3, so it gives me y equals -3. And that's what we had expected, that our y-intercept would be -3. So the coordinate for that is 0, -3. Now for the x-intercept. I write my equation, but I replace the y with 0. So now it's 0 equals 1/4x minus 3. Now I isolate for x. I'll start by adding 3 to both sides. 3 equals 1/4x. Now I need to get rid of this fraction. Well, you might want to start by finding a common denominator. That's what we were doing before. So this is like 3/1. To make it a common denominator of 4, we're going to have to multiply the top and bottom by 4. So that gives us 12/4 equals 1/4x. Since we have a common denominator, we can cancel them out. So now I have 12 equals 1x, or just x. So that's my x-intercept. So the coordinate for that is 12, 0. Now you can graph this quite easily once you know the intercept. So I'm going to quickly just sketch a little graph to show you how I can easily get a line here. So I'm just going to plot these 2 points. To draw any line, all you need are 2 points. Well, we know that our y-intercept is at -3, so it's approximately here. Remember, this is just a sketch, so my graph isn't completely accurate, but we'll still get an idea what the line looks like. So there's my y-intercept. My x-intercept is at 12, 0, so it's going to be over here somewhere, 12. And then I just connect them with a ruler and I can extend the line. There's my line. Now I can check to find the slope. I know from my rule that the slope is 1/4. Well, let's see what slope we get here. I'm going up 3 and over 12, both in the positive direction. So my slope would be 3/12, which can reduce to 1/4. So it's the same. Now let's try B. This equation is also an equation of a line. It's in a different form, but we can still easily find the intercepts from this equation. So we'll start again with the y-intercept. So I'm replacing my x value with 0. And I'm solving the equation. Well, 2 times 0 is 0, so that's gone. So now I have -5y plus 10 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. So now I have -5y equals -10. And then divide both sides by -5. So y equals 2. So my y-intercept is 0, 2. Now I'll do the x-intercept. Do it down here where I have more space. So for the x-intercept, I replace the y with 0. So 2x minus 5 times 0 plus 10 equals 0. So -5 times 0 is gone. So now I have 2x plus 10 equals 0. Subtract 10 from both sides. 2x equals -10, and now divide by 2. So x equals -5. Now that we have the 2 intercepts, and I'll write the coordinate. So the coordinate here is -5 and 0. Now that I have these 2 points, I can sketch this graph very easily, just like in the other example. So I'd like you to plot these 2 points, my x-intercept, my y-intercept, and do a little sketch of a graph just below, just down here. Try doing your sketch, bring it to class so I can see it next period. I'm also going to ask you to complete the following question. So here's my equation, 3x minus 9y plus 27 equals 0. I want you to find the x-intercept, the y-intercept, and I want you to sketch the graph. I would like to see the work for all 3 things listed here. Bring this to class so I can check it next period.